They say your 30th birthday is supposed to be special. Mine was special, all right, just not in the way I imagined. Picture this. You walk into a room full of 75 people, balloons everywhere, streamers hanging from the ceiling, and everyone you've ever called family staring at you in complete silence. Not a single smile, not one happy birthday, just cold, judgmental eyes. Then your father steps forward, hands you a manila folder, and says 4 words that shatter your entire existence. You're not ours. I'm Summer Patterson, at least that's what I thought my name was, and this is the story of how I discovered that everything I believed about my life, my family, my identity, was built on a foundation of lies. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming, not even me. The man they said was dead, the man whose name was never supposed to be spoken, walked out of that crowd of silent relatives and changed everything. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to take you back to where this nightmare really began. 4 weeks earlier, to be exact, to the phone call that set everything in motion. I was working night shift in the ICU. It's a job that teaches you about life and death in ways most people never experience. You learn to read monitors, to spot the subtle changes that mean someone's slipping away. You learn to be present for strangers in their most vulnerable moments, and you learn that family, the people who show up, who hold your hand, who refuse to leave your side, that's what matters most. Or at least, that's what I thought. My phone buzzed during my break. Brianna, my younger sister. She only called when she needed something, money usually, or a ride somewhere, or someone to listen to her complain about how hard it was being an influencer with only 50,000 followers. "Summer! Oh my God, you won't believe this!" Her voice was high-pitched, excited, the way it always got when she had gossip. I pressed the phone to my ear, keeping my voice low. "What's going on, Bri?" "Mom and Dad are throwing you a surprise party for your 30th. They're inviting everyone, and I mean everyone. Aunt Dorothy, Uncle Robert, the Ohio cousins, literally the entire family tree." I froze. The pen in my hand stopped moving across the patient chart. "What?" "I know, right? Isn't it amazing? They want to do something really special for you." My mind raced through 30 years of birthdays, 30 years of watching Brianna get elaborate celebrations while I got quiet dinners and practical gifts. Her 21st birthday had cost our parents $15,000, country club venue, 5-tier cake, 100 guests, professional photographer, the works. Dad had stood up and given this beautiful speech about his little princess and how proud he was of everything she'd accomplished. My 21st birthday? Mom made meatloaf. After dinner, she patted my shoulder and said, "Money's tight this year, sweetheart. You understand, right?" I understood. I always understood. That's what I did. I understood when there was no money for my college dorm, but plenty for Brianna's spring break trips. I understood when my car broke down and Dad said I was strong and independent enough to handle it myself, while Brianna got a brand new Lexus for her high school graduation. I understood when my nursing school graduation was celebrated with takeout Chinese food, while Brianna's community college enrollment got a family cruise. "Bri," I said carefully, "are you sure about this? Mom and Dad don't really do parties for me." "That's exactly what makes it so special. They said turning 30 is a huge milestone. They want to show you how much you mean to them." She paused, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "You have to act surprised, though. I totally wasn't supposed to tell you." "I'll act surprised," I promised. After we hung up, I sat in that break room for a long time, staring at my lukewarm coffee. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Down the hall, monitors beeped steadily, measuring heartbeats, tracking lives hanging in the balance. Maybe things were changing. Maybe after 30 years of being invisible, of being the responsible one, the capable one, the one who didn't need attention or celebration or love, maybe they finally saw me. I wanted to believe it so badly. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I let myself hope. I pulled out my notebook, the one where I tracked my finances. 7 years as an ICU nurse. 7 years of 12-hour shifts, of holding dying patients' hands, of missing holidays and birthdays and life, because someone needed to be there for the code blues and the emergency intubations. 7 years of sending $500 home to my parents every single month. I did the math. $42,000. That's how much I'd given them, never asking for it back, never even mentioning it. Because that's what family does, right? You help when you can. Meanwhile, Brianna lived in their basement rent-free. She'd never contributed a single dollar to household expenses. Last month, she'd asked Dad for $8,000 to invest in her content creation business. He wrote the check that same day. 3 years ago, when my car died and I needed $2,000 for a down payment on a used Honda, Dad looked at me like I'd asked him to donate a kidney. "You're a strong, independent woman, Summer. You can figure it out." So I figured it out, took out a loan, worked double shifts, paid it off myself. Mom's words echoed in my head. "Brianna's still finding herself. She needs support. You don't need anything from us. You're the capable one." The capable one. Translation, the one they could safely ignore. But that night, sitting in my tiny apartment with my financial notebook open, I pushed those bitter thoughts away. They were throwing me a party, a real party. Maybe this was their way of saying thank you. Maybe they finally recognized everything I'd sacrificed, everything I'd given. I started planning what I'd wear, what I'd say, how I'd react with the perfect amount of surprise. I wanted to make them proud. Even after everything, I still wanted that. 3 days before the party, my phone rang. It was my manager at the hospital. "Summer, I have incredible news. The board is ready to interview you for the charge nurse position." My heart stopped. 5 years. I'd been working toward this promotion for 5 years. The charge nurse position meant better hours, better pay, respect, leadership. It meant everything I'd been fighting for. "That's amazing! When?" "2 weeks from today. But there's one thing we need," she paused. "A professional recommendation letter, preferably from someone with board connections, someone who can speak to your character and work ethic beyond just the clinical skills." I knew exactly who she meant. My father, Gerald Patterson, had served on the hospital board for 12 years before retiring. A letter from him would carry serious weight. "Your father used to be on our board, didn't he?" she continued. "A recommendation from him would be perfect." I called Dad that evening. My hands were shaking as I dialed. We didn't talk often. Our conversations were usually brief, transactional. But this felt important. This felt like something a father should do for his daughter. "Dad, it's Summer." "Summer." His voice was warm, warmer than usual. "What can I do for you?" "I'm being considered for a promotion at the hospital. Charge nurse. It's a big deal. My manager suggested I ask you for a recommendation letter, since you were on the board and—" "A recommendation letter?" He interrupted me, and I could hear something in his tone. Pleasure? Satisfaction? "Of course, sweetheart. I'd be happy to write one for you." Sweetheart. He called me sweetheart. The relief that flooded through me was almost painful. "Really? Dad, that would mean everything to me. Thank you so much." "Tell you what," he said, his voice smooth as honey. "I'll give it to you at your birthday party. Make it a special moment. A father presenting his daughter's future to the whole family. How does that sound?" Something flickered in my gut, a warning. His tone was too rehearsed, too smooth, too perfect. But I dismissed it immediately. Maybe he was just being sentimental. 30 was a milestone after all. "That sounds wonderful, Dad, really, thank you." "Anything for my girl." My girl. He'd never called me that before. That was always Brianna's title. Daddy's girl. My little princess. Never me. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in months. The promotion, the party, the recommendation letter, everything was finally falling into place. I was even ahead on my apartment savings. 3 more months, and I'd have enough for a down payment on my own place. A real home, not this tiny studio with the broken heater and the neighbors who fought at 2 a.m. For the first time in years, I let myself believe. I let myself hope. I let myself think that maybe, just maybe, I mattered to them. That week, I worked extra shifts to save money and traded schedules with colleagues so I could have the party night off. I bought a dress, navy blue, elegant but not flashy, professional. I wanted to look worthy of that recommendation letter, worthy of the promotion, worthy of being celebrated. I even bought them a gift. Ridiculous, right? Bringing a gift to your own birthday party. But that was me. Always giving, always trying to earn something that should have been freely given. The gift was a leather-bound photo album. I'd spent weeks putting it together, carefully selecting pictures from throughout the years. Family vacations, holidays, graduations. I wrote little captions under each photo, memories, moments. I thought it would show them how much our family meant to me, how much they meant to me. I remember being 10 years old, spending hours on a Mother's Day painting for Mom. Watercolors, a garden scene with tulips and sunshine. I'd been so careful, so precise. I thought it was beautiful. Mom glanced at it for maybe 3 seconds. Then Brianna, who was 6, toddled over with a stick figure drawing she'd scribbled in 5 minutes. "Oh, sweetheart," Mom had gushed, scooping Brianna into her arms. "You're such an artist. We're putting this on the fridge right now." My painting went into a drawer. I found it years later, still rolled up, never framed, never displayed, forgotten. From that day forward, I tried harder, studied harder, worked harder, got perfect grades, became valedictorian, got into nursing school, graduated top of my class, won awards, saved lives. I thought if I could just be good enough, talented enough, successful enough, they'd finally look at me the way they looked at Brianna. 30 years of trying. The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about something I'd buried for years, something that had always nagged at the back of my mind, but I'd never let myself examine too closely. I'd never actually seen my birth certificate, the original one. When I was 16, I needed my birth certificate to apply for my driver's license. I'd asked Mom for it, and she'd gotten this strange look on her face. Panic, maybe? It flashed across her features so quickly I almost missed it. "Oh, honey, we lost that years ago. There was a flood in 2005. Ruined a bunch of important documents. But don't worry, I'll order you a new one from the county." She'd handed me a certificate a week later. It looked official enough. My name, my birth date, my parents' names. Everything seemed normal. Except years later, when I was in nursing school studying for a community health project, I'd researched natural disasters in our county. Out of curiosity, I'd looked up that flood Mom mentioned. There was no flood in our area in 2005, not a major one, not even a minor one, just regular rainfall, nothing that would destroy important documents stored in a house. I'd brushed it off at the time. Maybe Mom misremembered the year. Maybe it was a pipe burst and she just called it a flood. Maybe I was overthinking things like I always did. But now, lying in my bed at 2 a.m. the night before my 30th birthday party, that memory wouldn't leave me alone. I grabbed my phone and started searching. Birth records, adoption records, missing persons. I didn't even know what I was looking for, just that something felt wrong. Something had always felt wrong. At 3 a.m., I found an old family photo on my laptop, a digital scan of a picture from when I was about 2 years old. Me, Mom, Dad, and someone else. A man I didn't recognize. He was holding me in the photo, and I was laughing, reaching for his face with tiny hands. I'd seen this photo before, years ago, in a box in the attic. When I'd asked Mom about it, she'd snatched it away. "Just an old friend of the family, no one important. Why are you going through old photos anyway?" But looking at it now, really looking at it, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The man's eyes. They were the exact same shade as mine. This unusual gray-green that neither Mom nor Dad had. I'd always wondered where I got my eye color. Mom said it was from her grandmother, but I'd seen pictures of all my grandparents. None of them had eyes like mine. I zoomed in on the photo. The man's smile, the shape of his face, the way he held me so naturally, like he'd done it 1,000 times before. My phone buzzed, a text from Brianna. "Can't wait for tomorrow. Mom and Dad have been planning something really special. You're going to be so surprised." Something about that message sent ice down my spine. The emoji felt wrong, too cheerful, too forced. I tried to sleep but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that manila folder from my nightmare. the one I hadn't even received yet but somehow knew was coming. The next morning, I got ready slowly. I did my makeup carefully, taking my time with each brush stroke. The navy dress fit perfectly. I looked professional, polished, ready to be celebrated. I picked up the photo album I'd made for my parents. The leather was smooth under my fingers. I'd spent $40 on it, money I really couldn't spare. But it had seemed important, a symbol of all the memories we shared, all the years we'd been a family. Looking at it now, I wondered if any of those memories were real. "Stop it," I told myself firmly. "You're being paranoid. They're throwing you a party. Dad's writing you a recommendation letter. Everything is fine." But my hands were shaking as I drove to my parents' house. The party was being held at their place, the large colonial where I'd grown up, where Brianna still lived, rent-free, in the finished basement they'd renovated for her 2 years ago. The renovation had cost $30,000. When I'd needed $2,000 for my car, I was told money was tight. I parked down the street like Brianna had instructed. "We want to surprise you when you walk in," she'd said. As I walked up the driveway, I noticed something odd. There were cars everywhere, dozens of them, more than I'd expected, and they were all parked in this strange formation, like they were blocking something, or blocking me in. I shook off the thought. Paranoid. I was being paranoid. The front door was unlocked. I pushed it open, clutching the photo album to my chest like a shield. "Surprise!" I called out, playing my part. But there was no answering shout, no burst of celebration, no happy birthday wishes, just silence. I walked into the living room and froze. 75 people. I counted them later, during the aftermath. 75 relatives, all standing in a semicircle around the room. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. My grandmother in her wheelchair. Uncle Robert, who I'd always thought was kind. Aunt Dorothy, who used to sneak me cookies when I was little. All of them staring at me with the same expression. Cold, judgmental, disgusted. Not a single smile. Not one warm greeting. Not even a flicker of the affection I desperately hoped to see. The room was decorated. Balloons, streamers, a banner that read, "Happy 30th birthday, Summer." A table laden with food. A cake, 3 tiers, professional bakery work. Everything a birthday party should have. Except joy. Except love. Except any sign that this was actually a celebration. "Mom?" My voice came out small, confused. "Dad? What's going on?" My father stepped forward. He was wearing his good suit, the one he saved for important occasions. In his hands was a manila folder, the exact manila folder from my nightmare. "Summer," Dad said, his voice cold and formal, like he was addressing a stranger. "We need to talk." I looked around the room desperately, searching for one friendly face, one person who might explain what was happening, but everyone just stared. Some looked angry, some looked uncomfortable. A few even looked satisfied, like they'd been waiting for this moment. "Dad, I don't understand. What's going on? Is this some kind of joke?" He held up the manila folder. "Does this look like a joke to you?" My mother stepped forward. Her face was twisted with an emotion I'd never seen directed at me before, pure hatred. 30 years, she hissed. 30 years we raised you, fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. And this is how you repay us? Repay you? What are you talking about? My voice was shaking now. The photo album slipped from my hands and hit the floor with a dull thud. Brianna was in the corner, her phone up, recording. Of course she was recording. This was content. This was engagement. This was her moment. Dad opened the folder slowly, deliberately, like he was savoring every second of my confusion. He pulled out a sheet of paper and held it up so everyone could see. "DNA results," he announced to the room, "conducted at 3 separate laboratories to ensure accuracy. Summer Patterson is not biologically related to myself or my wife." The room started spinning. I reached for the wall to steady myself. "That's not possible," I whispered. "That's not... You're my parents. You're my mom and dad. This doesn't make sense." "Oh, it makes perfect sense," Mom said. "We've suspected for years. You never looked like us. never acted like us, never fit in with this family. So we decided to find out the truth, Dad continued, and now we have it. You're not ours, Summer. You never were. I tried to process his words, but they wouldn't stick. Not biologically related. DNA test. Not ours. But I don't understand. If I'm not your biological daughter, then why did you raise me? That's exactly what we'd like to know, Dad said. His voice dropped, became dangerous. Who are you? Where did you come from? And why were you planted in our family? Planted? Like I was some kind of spy, some kind of infiltrator. We have a theory, Mom said, her voice dripping with venom. We think your real mother was trying to trap us, trying to get money from us. She probably abandoned you on our doorstep, hoping we'd take you in and support you forever. And we did, Dad added. We took you in. We raised you. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on you over 30 years, money that should have gone to our real daughter. Brianna's face appeared over Dad's shoulder, still recording, her expression gleeful. So here's what's going to happen, Dad continued, pulling more papers from the folder. We've calculated every expense we've incurred raising you: food, clothing, shelter, education, medical care, everything. It comes to $847,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. We're giving you 30 days to arrange a payment plan. You'll pay us back every single penny. I don't have that kind of money, I managed to choke out. I'm a nurse. I could never. That's not our problem, Mom interrupted. You've been living in this family under false pretenses for 30 years. You owe us, and you're going to pay. But I didn't know, I shouted, my voice finally finding strength. If what you're saying is true, I didn't know. I was a baby. How is any of this my fault? Your fault or not, you benefited from it, Dad said coldly, and benefits come with a price. My grandmother, silent until now, wheeled herself forward slightly. For a moment, I thought she might defend me. She'd always been kind, always slipped me candy when I was little, always told me I was special. You should have told us sooner, she said to my parents. We could have gotten rid of her years ago. Gotten rid of her, like I was trash, like I was nothing. I looked at Uncle Robert. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Aunt Dorothy was whispering to her husband, shaking her head. The cousins from Ohio were watching like this was entertainment. Not one person stood up for me. Not one person questioned this insanity. Not one person said, wait, maybe we should talk about this privately, or this seems extreme, or even, are you sure? They'd all known. Every single one of them had known what this party really was: a trial, an execution, a public humiliation. And one more thing, Mom said, reaching out suddenly and snatching my car keys right out of my purse. This car is registered in our name. We bought it, which means it's ours. You don't get to keep it. That's my car. I've been making the payments for 3 years. Payments on a loan we co-signed, Dad corrected. The title is in our name. The car is ours. You can take an Uber home. Home. Where was home now? Who was I now? I stood there, surrounded by 75 people who I'd spent my entire life trying to please, trying to earn love from, trying to be worthy of, and not a single one of them saw me as human. Brianna's phone was still recording. I could see the little red dot, capturing every moment of my destruction for her followers. This would be her most viral post ever. I opened my mouth to speak, to defend myself, to say something, anything that might make them see how crazy this was. But then someone else spoke first. That's enough. The voice came from the back of the room, deep, commanding, angry. The crowd parted and a man stepped forward. The man from the photograph. The one with my eyes. The man my parents had told me was dead. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with gray-green eyes identical to mine, salt and pepper hair, a strong jawline, and an expensive suit that said he wasn't hurting for money. He looked like he was in his mid-50s, fit and healthy, very much alive. My mother's face went white, actually white, like all the blood had drained from her body. "No," she whispered. "No, you can't be here. You're supposed to be—" "Dead?" the man finished, his voice sharp as broken glass. "Is that what you told her, Patricia? Is that what you told my daughter?" My daughter. The room erupted into chaos. People were shouting, moving, pulling out their phones. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at this stranger who was claiming to be my father. "Everyone sit down and shut up," the man commanded, and something in his voice made the entire room fall silent. This was someone used to being obeyed. He walked toward me, and I instinctively took a step back. "Don't be afraid," he said softly, and his expression changed. The hardness melted away, replaced by something that looked like pain. "Summer, my name is Marcus Chen, and I've been looking for you for 30 years. "This is insane," Dad, Gerald, whoever he was, sputtered. "You have no right to be here. This is our house, our family matter." "Your family matter?" Marcus turned on him with fury. "You kidnapped my daughter and you think this is your family matter?" "Kidnapped?" I found my voice finally. "What are you talking about?" Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out his own folder. It was thick, stuffed with documents. "May I?" he asked me gently, gesturing to the coffee table. I nodded, unable to speak. He spread out the contents. Photographs, legal documents, newspaper clippings, private investigator reports. 30 years of searching, all laid out on that coffee table. 31 years ago, Marcus began, his voice steady but his hands shaking slightly as he organized the papers. "I was dating a woman named Patricia Reynolds." He looked at my mother. "We were in love, or so I thought. We'd been together for 2 years. Then she got pregnant." Mom made a sound like a wounded animal. "I was overjoyed," Marcus continued. "I proposed immediately, but Patricia said she needed time to think about it. Then one day she just disappeared, vanished, took all her things and left. I searched everywhere, filed missing persons reports, hired investigators. Nothing." He picked up a photograph and showed it to me, a young woman holding a newborn baby. The woman was definitely my mother, 30 years younger, and the baby— "That's you," Marcus said, 6 hours old. I took this photo at the hospital. Patricia was listed as the mother. I was listed as the father. We named you Summer because you were born on the first day of summer, June 21st. My birthday, June 21st. That part was true at least. "Then what happened?" I whispered. 3 days after you were born, I went to work. I was building my company, working long hours, trying to provide for my new family. When I came home that evening, Patricia and you were gone. No note, no explanation, just gone. He pulled out more documents, police reports, missing persons files, all dated 30 years ago. I searched for months, years. I never stopped looking. Then, about 6 months after you disappeared, I got an anonymous tip. Someone saw Patricia in this town, saw her with a baby, saw her with him. He pointed at Gerald. They were getting married. "That's a lie!" Mom shrieked. "Marcus, stop this! Stop lying!" "Am I lying, Patricia?" Marcus pulled out a marriage certificate. "You married Gerald Patterson 8 months after our daughter was born. 8 months. And in the marriage records, you listed yourself as childless." He turned to me. "She erased you, Summer. Erased me. Created a whole new life." "But why?" I asked. "Why would she do that?" Marcus's expression darkened. "Money. Gerald Patterson came from wealth, old money, the kind of money I didn't have at the time. I was just starting my tech company, working out of a garage. Patricia wanted the country club life, the mansion, the status, and she didn't want to split custody, didn't want me in the picture at all. So she told me you were dead," I said slowly, pieces clicking together. "She told everyone you were dead. Not just dead. She told people I was abusive, dangerous, that she had to flee for her safety and the baby's safety. She got a restraining order based on fabricated evidence." He showed me the court documents. "I fought it, but by the time the case was thrown out for lack of evidence, you'd been legally adopted by Gerald. Your birth certificate was sealed. You became Summer Patterson." Gerald's face was red with anger. "You can't prove any of this. You can't prove she's your daughter." "Actually," Marcus said calmly, pulling out yet another document. I can. Because when I saw the announcement about this party on Brianna's very public TikTok account, advertising Summer Patterson's 30th birthday, I knew it had to be you. I had my attorneys petition the court for a DNA test, and since you so conveniently ran your own DNA test, Gerald, we can compare the results. He handed me a paper. This is my DNA profile. That, he pointed to the paper in Gerald's hand, is yours according to their test. Any geneticist will confirm we're father and daughter, but if you want, we can do another test right now. I brought a kit. The room was completely silent. I looked at the documents spread across the table. Birth certificate with Marcus Chen listed as father, hospital photos, missing persons reports, years of investigation files, court records. Then I looked at Gerald's folder, just a DNA test and an itemized bill. You knew, I said to Mom and Gerald. You've always known. That's why you treated me differently. That's why nothing I did was ever good enough, because I wasn't really yours. That's not true, Mom said, but her voice was weak now, unconvincing. We loved you. We raised you as our own. Loved her? Marcus's laugh was bitter. You treated her like a servant. I've been watching, Patricia. Ever since I found you 3 years ago, I've been watching. 3 years. He'd known where I was for 3 years. I wanted to reach out immediately, Marcus said, turning to me, his eyes pleading for understanding. But my attorneys advised against it. You were an adult. You'd been raised by them. They had legal adoption papers. If I just showed up and told you the truth, you might not believe me. You might think I was some crazy stalker. So I waited. I gathered evidence. I built an airtight case. He pulled out more documents, and what I saw made my stomach turn. Photographs of me, leaving the hospital after shifts, going grocery shopping, walking to my car, sitting in coffee shops. I know how this looks, Marcus said quickly, but I had to know you were okay. I had to see the person my daughter had become, and what I saw broke my heart. He showed me a photograph dated 6 months ago. Me, leaving the hospital at midnight, my shoulders slumped with exhaustion. You were working 60-hour weeks, living in a tiny apartment with broken heating, driving a car that was barely running, and all the while you were sending money to them. He gestured at Gerald and Patricia with disgust. How did you know about the money? I asked. Because I'm in tech, Summer. Digital forensics is child's play when you own a cybersecurity company. I've been monitoring your financial transactions, with a court order, I might add, building evidence of their exploitation. Gerald's face went from red to purple. You've been spying on our family? I've been protecting my daughter from kidnappers, Marcus shot back, and gathering evidence for the lawsuit I'm filing against both of you for parental kidnapping, fraud, and emotional abuse. The room erupted again. Relatives were shouting, some trying to leave, others pulling out their phones. Brianna had stopped recording, her face pale as she realized this wasn't going to be the viral content she'd imagined. Wait, I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. Everyone stopped. 3 years. You've known where I was for 3 years and you just watched? You didn't think I deserved to know the truth? Marcus's face crumpled. I know it seems cruel, but Summer, you have to understand. By the time I found you, you were 27 years old. You had a life, a career, an identity. If I'd burst in and destroyed everything you thought you knew about yourself, what would that have done to you? So instead, you let me keep living a lie? My voice rose. Let me keep trying to earn love from people who would never give it. Let me keep sending money to people who stole me. I was waiting for the right moment, Marcus said desperately. I was going to approach you next month, after your birthday. I had it all planned, a private meeting, just us, with a therapist present to help you process everything. But then Brianna posted about this party, about the big surprise, and I had my investigators dig deeper. He pulled out printed screenshots, group chat messages between my mother, father, and several relatives. Read them, he said, handing them to me. My hands shook as I read. Patricia, the DNA results came back. She's definitely not ours. Finally, we have proof. Gerald, perfect. We'll demand repayment at her birthday party. Make it public so she can't refuse. Aunt Dorothy, How much are you asking for? Gerald, everything. Every penny we spent on her. $847,000. She can pay it off over 30 years with interest. Uncle Robert, and if she can't pay Patricia, then we take her to court, sue her for fraud, ruin her nursing career, make sure she never works again. Brianna, this is going to be epic content. My followers are going to eat this up. I felt vomit rising in my throat. They were going to destroy you, Marcus said quietly. Not because they needed the money. Gerald's family trust is worth over $12 million. They were going to destroy you because Patricia has spent 30 years resenting you, and Gerald has spent 30 years resenting the reminder that his wife came with another man's child. I looked at my mother. My whole life I'd wondered why she was cold to me, why nothing I did was good enough, why Brianna got everything and I got nothing. Now I knew. Is it true? I asked her directly. Did you steal me from my father because you wanted money and status? She didn't answer. She just looked away. Answer your daughter, Marcus demanded. She's not my daughter, Patricia finally screamed. She was never my daughter. She was a mistake, a burden, a constant reminder of you. The words hung in the air like poison. I tried, Patricia continued, her composure completely gone now. I tried to love her like Brianna, but every time I looked at her I saw you, those eyes, that face. I couldn't do it. So yes, I took her because I didn't want you to have her either. And yes, I married Gerald for his money. And yes, I've regretted it every single day because she never let me forget what I'd done. I never let you forget? I whispered. I was a child. I didn't do anything except exist. Exactly, Patricia hissed. You existed. You were always there, always trying so hard to make me love you, and I couldn't. I just couldn't. The room was dead silent now. Even the relatives who'd been so eager to judge me looked uncomfortable. Gerald put a hand on Patricia's shoulder, but she shrugged him off. So we decided, she continued, her voice cold again, that if we couldn't love you, we could at least profit from you. Keep you around long enough to get some return on our investment. And it worked. You sent us money for years. You worked yourself to exhaustion, and you never asked for a single thing in return. Because I loved you, I said, tears streaming down my face. Because you were my parents. We were never your parents, Patricia said flatly. We were your captors, and honestly, you should be thanking us. Without us, you'd have been raised by him. She gestured dismissively at Marcus. Some nobody with a garage startup. Marcus smiled, but there was no humor in it. Patricia, that garage startup is now Chen Digital Security. We're worth $2.3 billion. The color drained from Patricia's face. Gerald's mouth fell open. Even Brianna looked up from her phone, eyes wide. $2.3 billion? Gerald repeated weakly. That's right, Marcus said calmly. That little garage startup you mocked? It's now the third largest cybersecurity firm in North America. We protect banks, hospitals, government agencies. I'm personally worth just over $3 billion when you include my real estate and investment portfolio. He turned to me, his expression softening. Summer, the life you could have had, the education, the opportunities, the love, I had all of it waiting for you. And they stole it. They stole you from me and raised you in poverty while sitting on a $12 million trust fund. We didn't raise her in poverty, Gerald sputtered. We gave her a home, food, and education. You gave her the bare minimum while lavishing everything on Brianna, Marcus interrupted. I have the receipts, Gerald, literally. My investigators went through 30 years of your financial records. Want to know what they found? He didn't wait for an answer. He pulled out another document. Brianna's 21st birthday party, $15,000. Summer's 21st birthday, $47 for groceries to make meatloaf. Brianna's car, $45,000 for a new Lexus. Summer's car, nothing. She had to take out her own loan. Brianna's bedroom renovation, $30,000. Summer's bedroom, unchanged since she was 12 years old, until she moved out and you immediately converted it into Patricia's craft room. Each fact landed like a punch. I'd known I was treated differently, but hearing it all laid out like that, with actual numbers, made it undeniable. Education costs, Marcus continued. Brianna's community college, which she dropped out of after one semester, you paid $12,000. Summer's nursing school, which she completed with honors, she paid for entirely herself with loans and scholarships. In fact, the only thing you consistently paid for Summer was her health insurance, and that's only because it was legally required until she turned 26. Aunt Dorothy shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Robert looked at the floor. The cousins from Ohio were edging toward the door. "And the best part," Marcus said, his voice dropping dangerously low, "is that while Summer was sending you $500 every month for 7 years, totaling $42,000, you were telling relatives that she was selfish and never helped the family. I have emails, Gerald. Emails where you complained to your brother that Summer never contributed financially." "That's taken out of context," Gerald said weakly. "Really? Because I have the email right here. You wrote, and I quote, 'Summer never helps out. We raised her, and she acts like she doesn't owe us anything. At least with Brianna, we know she's ours and worth the investment.'" The words hit me like a physical blow. Worth the investment. I wasn't worth it, because I wasn't really theirs. "You people are monsters," Marcus said, his voice shaking with rage. "You kidnapped a baby, forged adoption papers, raised her as a servant, and then tried to extort money from her, and you did it all while making her believe she was the problem." "We have legal adoption papers," Patricia said, but her voice was uncertain now. "You can't prove they're forged." "Actually, I can," Marcus said, "because I never signed away my parental rights, ever, which means any adoption that occurred was illegal. I've already filed paperwork with the state. The adoption is being contested, and given the evidence of fraud, kidnapping, and the fact that you obtained the adoption through falsified abuse claims, I'd say it's going to be overturned within the month." He looked at me. "Summer, legally, you've always been Summer Chen. These people have been using a false identity for you for 30 years. Summer Chen. The name felt foreign and familiar at the same time. "But that's not all," Marcus continued, addressing the room now. "Gerald, Patricia, you wanted to sue Summer for $847,000 for the cost of raising her? Let's talk about lawsuits." He pulled out a legal document, official and thick with pages. "This is a lawsuit for parental kidnapping, fraud, identity theft, emotional abuse, and exploitation. I'm suing you for 30 years of lost time with my daughter. 30 years of missing birthdays, graduations, moments I can never get back. And the amount I'm suing for?" He paused for effect. $50 million. The room exploded. People were shouting. Patricia was screaming. Gerald looked like he might have a heart attack. "You can't do this," Patricia shrieked. "We raised her. We deserve compensation." "You deserve prison," Marcus said coldly. "And that's exactly where you're going. I've already turned over evidence to the district attorney. They're currently reviewing charges for kidnapping, fraud, and child exploitation. The only reason you're not in handcuffs right now is because I wanted Summer to hear the truth from your own mouths first." He turned to me, his expression gentle again. "Summer, I know this is overwhelming. I know you need time to process all of this. But I want you to know that I'm not here to force anything. I'm not here to demand that you immediately accept me as your father or jump into my life. I'm here to give you the truth and the choice they never gave you." "Choice?" I whispered. "Yes, you can walk away from all of this. I'll drop the lawsuit, I'll leave you alone, and you'll never have to see me again. Or," he paused, his eyes filling with tears, "you can let me be your father, the father I should have been for the last 30 years. Either way, I'm going to make sure they pay for what they did." I looked around the room, at the 75 relatives who'd stood there silently while Gerald and Patricia tried to destroy me, at Brianna, still clutching her phone, her viral moment turned into a nightmare, at Patricia and Gerald, who'd spent 30 years making me feel worthless. Then I looked at Marcus, at this stranger with my eyes who'd spent 30 years searching for me, who'd built an empire and never stopped hoping he'd find his daughter. "I need air," I said, my voice barely audible. I walked toward the door, and the crowd parted like I was radioactive. The night air hit my face like a slap. I stumbled down the front steps, my hands shaking so badly I had to grip the railing to keep from falling. My chest felt too tight, like I couldn't get a full breath no matter how hard I tried. The manicured hedges, the circular driveway, the luxury cars lining it all blurred together as tears finally spilled over. 30 years. 30 years of lies. I bent over, hands on my knees, gasping. Somewhere behind me, the door creaked open, and for one wild second I panicked, afraid they'd followed me, afraid they'd try to explain, justify, rewrite history one more time. But the footsteps stopped a few feet away. "Summer," Marcus said quietly, "I'll stay right here. I won't come closer unless you ask." That did it. I sank down onto the cold stone step and wrapped my arms around myself, shoulders shaking as the sobs came fast and ugly. These weren't polite tears. These were the kind I'd swallowed my whole life, after birthdays, after holidays, after watching Brianna get everything while I learned not to want. "I don't know who I am," I choked out. "They lied about my name, my life, everything." "I know," he said, his voice cracked just slightly. "And I'm so sorry." I laughed then, sharp and broken. "You didn't do this." "No," he said, "but I didn't stop it either. And that's something I'll live with for the rest of my life." We sat there in silence, the distant hum of crickets, a car door slamming somewhere down the block as one of the relatives made their escape. Inside the house, muffled shouting, Patricia's shrill voice rising, Gerald's panicked bluster. For once, it wasn't aimed at me. "Did you really look for me?" I asked finally. "All that time?" "Yes." No hesitation. Every year, every birthday, every Christmas. I kept a photo of you in my wallet until it fell apart. I hired private investigators. I followed dead ends, false tips. I was told more than once to let it go, that maybe you'd be better off without me. He swallowed. "Turns out, you weren't." That hurt worse than anything else. "I wasn't abused," I whispered. "Not the way they said. They weren't monsters every day. They just ignored me, compared me, made sure I knew I came second." "Neglect is abuse," Marcus said firmly. "So is emotional exploitation. So is making a child earn love." I wiped my face with the sleeve of my jacket. "They're going to say you're exaggerating, that you're rich and angry and trying to steal me away." "I know." He exhaled slowly. "That's why everything I said in there is documented, verified, cross-checked. This isn't about persuasion, it's about facts." I glanced back at the house, its lights blazing like nothing had changed. "What happens now?" "For them?" He paused. "Lawyers, investigations, charges most likely. The district attorney doesn't like cases involving forged documents and false abuse claims." "And for me?" His voice softened. "Whatever you want. Therapy, space, answers, a name change, back to Chen, if and when you're ready. You don't owe me gratitude, or forgiveness, or affection." I studied him then, really looked. The same dark eyes, the same crease between the brows when thinking too hard. A man who could have bulldozed my life with money and lawyers, but hadn't. "You said I could walk away," I said. "Yes." "If I do, you'd still destroy them." "Yes." "And if I don't?" A small, sad smile. "Then I'll still destroy them, just with you knowing you're not alone anymore." I let out a shaky breath. I spent my whole life being told I was lucky, that I should be grateful they took me in. "You were stolen," he said gently, "and then punished for surviving it." The front door burst open. Patricia stumbled out onto the porch, mascara streaked, hair wild. "Summer!" she screamed. "Don't listen to him! He's manipulating you! He's trying to buy you!" Marcus stood instantly, stepping between us without touching me. "You should go back inside, Patricia." "You ungrateful little!" she shrieked, pointing at me. "After everything we did for you!" I surprised myself by standing. My legs felt weak, but my voice didn't. "You did the bare minimum," I said, "and you made sure I paid you back for it. Every day. She froze. You don't get to rewrite my childhood now, I continued. You don't get to cry victim after 30 years of choosing me last. Gerald appeared behind her, pale and sweating. Summer, please. We can talk about this privately. There is no privately, I said. Not anymore. Red and blue lights flashed at the end of the driveway. Patricia's face drained of color. Marcus didn't smile. That'll be my attorney and a representative from Child Services. They just want to ask a few questions. Questions? Gerald croaked. Yes, Marcus said, about forged paperwork, financial exploitation, and why a child's trust fund was never disclosed. Patricia collapsed onto the porch steps, wailing. For the first time in my life, I felt nothing for them. No guilt, no urge to fix it, just distance. Marcus turned back to me. Do you want to leave? I nodded. He held out his hand, but stopped halfway. May I? I hesitated only a second before placing my hand in his. His grip was warm, steady. As we walked away from the house, past the police cars, past the wreckage of the life I'd thought was mine, I felt something unfamiliar stir beneath the fear and grief. Relief. Not because everything was fixed, but because the truth was finally out. And for the first time ever, the future felt like it belonged to me. We didn't go far. Marcus drove us to a quiet park 10 minutes away, the kind with old oak trees and cracked walking paths that smelled faintly of damp earth and cut grass. It was nearly empty, just a couple walking their dog in the distance, and a man sitting on a bench with headphones on, staring at his phone. Normal life, still happening, even after everything. He parked, turned off the engine, and waited. No questions, no speeches. That alone felt like a gift. I stared out the windshield for a long time before speaking. If I change my name back, it doesn't erase who I've been, right? No, Marcus said immediately. It just stops a lie from following you into the future. I nodded slowly. I keep thinking about all the times I defended them, all the times I told myself I was too sensitive, that I imagined the favoritism. That's how survival works, he said. You adapt to what you're given. He stopped himself, exhaled softly. You did what you had to do to get through. Something in his restraint made my throat tighten. I don't hate them, I admitted, and I feel guilty about that. You're allowed to feel complicated things, Marcus said. Hate isn't a requirement for justice. We got out of the car and walked toward a bench beneath a massive oak. The branches stretched wide, ancient and solid, like they'd seen 1,000 broken people pass beneath them and kept standing anyway. I sat. He stayed beside me, not crowding my space. They're going to say I'm doing this for money, I said quietly. That I chose you because you're rich. He looked at me then, really looked. You've been paying your own way since you were 18. You sent them money when you didn't have to. You chose nursing. You chose kindness. Anyone who knows you will know the truth. I laughed under my breath. You don't know me. I know enough, he said, and I want to know the rest, if you let me. The words didn't feel like pressure. They felt like an open door. I wrapped my arms around myself. What if I disappoint you? His answer was immediate. You won't. That's not realistic. Then let me rephrase, he said gently. You might, and that's okay. That's what being a daughter is. You don't have to earn my pride. That broke something open inside me. My eyes burned. They always said Brianna had more potential. Marcus's jaw tightened. Potential isn't measured by how much someone invests in you. It's measured by what you do with what you're given. And you did extraordinary things with scraps. I looked down at my hands, the same hands that had held IV lines, calmed frightened patients, counted out grocery money down to the last dollar. I don't know how to be this, I said, a daughter, to someone who actually wants me. "You don't have to know yet," he said. "We'll learn, slowly, awkwardly, with boundaries." That made me smile through the tears. "Boundaries," I repeated. "I like that." We sat in silence again. This one felt different. Not heavy, just full. Eventually, I asked the question that had been circling my thoughts since the door closed behind us. "Why didn't you just give up after so long?" Marcus leaned back, staring up through the branches. "Because every time I imagined my future, you were in it. I didn't know where or how, but I knew giving up would mean accepting that someone could erase you." He looked at me. I couldn't live with that. A breeze moved through the leaves. Somewhere, a dog barked. Life kept going. "I don't want to walk away," I said quietly. He didn't react, didn't reach for me, just nodded once, like he was afraid to break the moment. "I don't want to pretend this didn't happen," I continued, "and I don't want to jump into a new life overnight. But I want to try. I want to know you." His eyes shone, but his voice stayed steady. "That's more than enough." I took a deep breath. "Okay, then I have one condition." "Name it." "No secrets," I said. "Not from now on. If it's ugly, if it's uncomfortable, I want the truth." He smiled, small, sincere. "Deal." We stood to leave. As we walked back toward the car, he paused. "There's one more thing you should know," he said carefully. I tensed. "What?" "Tomorrow morning," he said, "this will be everywhere. The lawsuit, the contested adoption, the financial records. It's already being picked up by local media." My stomach dropped. "I didn't ask for that." "I know," he said softly, "but I'll shield you as much as possible. Statements will be handled by my legal team. You won't have to say a word." I nodded. "I just want to go to work and be normal." "You can," he said, "and if that ever changes, it'll be because you chose it." We got in the car. As he drove, I rested my head against the window, watching streetlights blur past. For the first time, the future didn't feel like something I had to survive. It felt like something I might actually get to live. The morning sunlight felt unfairly ordinary. I stood in my kitchen, barefoot on cold tile, staring at my phone as if it might explode. Notifications stacked on top of each other, missed calls, texts, news alerts I hadn't opened. Somewhere out there, my life had become a headline. In here, my coffee was still too strong and my toast slightly burned. Normal things. Anchors. I didn't open the news. I went to work. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and quiet urgency, the way it always did. Monitors beeped, stretchers rolled by. A woman laughed too loudly at the nurses' station over something unimportant. No one pointed, no one whispered. I was just Summer. Scrubs, messy bun, badge clipped on crooked, and that mattered more than I'd expected. Halfway through my shift, my charge nurse pulled me aside. "Hey," she said gently, "if you need to take time—" "I'm okay," I said, and realized it was true. Really. Later, while I was checking vitals on a patient who kept apologizing for being difficult, my phone buzzed once in my pocket. A single text. "Marcus, no rush, no pressure. I'm proud of you." I stared at it for a long moment, then tucked the phone away and finished my rounds. After work, I sat in my car for a while before driving home. This time, I did open the news. The words were careful. Alleged, under investigation, contested adoption. They talked about forged documents and misused trust funds, and a tech billionaire filing a civil suit against a suburban couple. They didn't talk about birthdays, or meatloaf, or a bedroom frozen in time. They never do. I scrolled past the comments, closed the app. That evening, I boxed up the last of the things I'd left behind at Gerald and Patricia's house months ago. Old textbooks, a cracked picture frame, clothes that no longer fit who I was. At the bottom of the box, I found my nursing school graduation program. No parents listed in the audience. I didn't feel the old sting this time. I set it aside and opened my laptop instead. The form was simple, clinical, black text on a white screen. Name change petition. I hovered over the fields for a long moment. Then, carefully, deliberately, I typed, Summer Chen. My finger trembled as I hit save, not submit. Not yet. Later, as the sky darkened, there was a knock at my door. I already knew who it was. Marcus stood in the hallway, holding a paper bag. "I come bearing dinner," he said, a little awkward. "And an exit plan if you want one." I smiled despite myself. "You can stay, for a bit." We ate on opposite ends of the couch, takeout cartons between us like neutral territory. It was strangely easy. No heavy conversations, no pressure to define anything. Eventually, I spoke. "I kept thinking there would be a moment where everything clicked," I said, "where I'd feel complete." "And?" he asked. "And it didn't," I said. "But that's okay. I think this is just the beginning." He nodded. "That's all I hoped for." When he stood to leave, he hesitated at the door. "Summer," he said. "Whatever happens next, good days, bad days, doubt, anger, I'm here. Not because of blood, because I choose to be." I believed him. After he left, I washed the dishes, turned off the lights, and sat on my bed in the quiet. For 30 years, my life had been something that happened to me. That night, I opened the petition again. I read every line, and this time, I hit submit. I lay back and stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, not with fear, but with possibility. I wasn't rescued. I wasn't rewritten. I was reclaimed. And tomorrow, for the first time ever, my name would be mine again.